we are recording the session now, so I want to welcome everyone formally. And in the next hour, we are going to be having a conversation like if we were in a cafe, talking, having coffee, and discussing what is the relationship between leadership and coaching. And today we're going to be focusing on one of the core competencies for coaches, that is creating awareness. How coaches, professional coaches, create awareness working with their clients, and how leaders can create awareness by challenging their collaborators to look at things from a different angle and different perspective. And in that way, they can learn and be more effective. So the invitation today is us to think together how we can be all more effective and creating awareness as coaches or as leaders or in any position that we have. We may not be formally leaders, but we may still be inspiring and influencing others. So when I ask everyone here, what is your first reaction if I ask you, what do you do to help people to create awareness? What come up for you? What will be your answer? What will you say? What do you do? If you want people to enhance their awareness or create higher level of awareness, what do you do?
You ask questions.
Yeah. One of the ways that we may support people creating awareness is asking questions. What is the power of questions? Well, questions make us think. So when I train leaders and I work with leaders or I coach them, I ask them, how effective are they at asking questions? Because we can be very effective at telling people what to do, but asking questions and making people think, it's a little bit more work. And sometimes it's a little bit challenging. And I do believe that great coaches ask great questions. I think that the difference between a good coach and a great coach, one of the differences are the questions that they ask, to what extent they make people think. That's the reason why the coach does not need to be an expert in the field of the client or the person that we're working. Like many times, leaders or managers have to manage or lead people who have abilities that they don't have. They're experts in topics that they are not. And they can still be great at doing that because their job is to provide the resources, the support the people need to be able to do their job, not necessarily telling them what to do. So in terms of questions, do you have any questions that you like to ask people in general, like as coaches or as managers, as leaders? Do you have any favorite questions? So let's get everybody involved. So let's get in the chat box. Let everybody write down in the chat box, what are the kind of questions that you like to ask? And of course, each situation is unique. And this is not about the same question for everybody, but are there any questions that you like to ask people to make them think that you ask consistently? So let's see what you come up with. And I'm saying the chat box so everybody can participate. When you're working with your collaborators, what do you like to ask? Let's wait for a couple of minutes and we'll go over the questions. What questions come up for you when you need to ask questions for people to think? What do you like to ask them? Okay, so let's read some of these questions that we have here. And Lindsay, thank you very much for being proactive here. That's great. So here are some of the questions. Like Lindsay was asking, what's possible now? And that's a great question. I really like this question, particularly after the coaching session, when you're getting to the end of the session and you have done some work with the client and the person is seeing something different now. So now I like to ask, what is possible now that was not possible before? And this question about possibility is a really great question because we live our lives based on what we think is possible. And I think as coaches and as leaders, we have a great role as somebody who may challenge people's limiting beliefs about what is possible. Do you resonate with what I am saying? It's like we live our lives thinking, okay, this is possible, this is not possible. So we have like a box. And yes, there are things that are not possible. We need to be realistic. So I am not going to be an Olympian. I think I'm a little bit old to do some things that require physical strength. But there are things that I may think and I may believe that is not possible for me because of limiting beliefs that I have in me. So I like to say we are not having limiting beliefs, but the limiting beliefs are having us. And this may be in our way to get results. So here is a good question that I really like to ask, Lindsay, I think is appropriate in coaching, but also for leaders, is asking the people that they're working with them, what do you think is possible here? Or what may be possible? Or when people start saying ideas and others are shutting them down, that this is not possible, they are not giving sometimes a chance to think differently. So at the end of the day, what we want is to think differently, to enhance the way we're thinking. What's like being you now? Okay, well, these are very profound questions, Lindsay. This is about the being. This is about the being. I love questions about the being because most of the time we have questions about the doing. What do you do? What do you want to do? But the questions about the being require looking at the mirror and being honest with ourselves. And sometimes we need to explain to people what do we mean when I am asking you, how do you want to show up as a leader? Who you are being as a leader? So if I ask people here who are not professional coaches, but are leaders or working with other people, and I ask you how you are showing up as a leader, maybe sometimes, what do you mean by that? Well, what do I mean is, okay, how do you do what you do? So when we're exploring the being, we're exploring how we are showing up, who we are being, how do we do leadership? How do we do other roles in our lives? How you are being as mothers, as fathers, as daughters, as partners in our life, as friends. And many times there is a discrepancy between who we are being and who we want to be. So this is a great space for learning and opportunity, looking at the gap between how we are showing up, who we are being as leaders, and who we want to be. And that applies to coaching too. And that's the reason why I embrace coaching supervision. I am one of the pioneers of coaching supervision in the United States and in the Americas in terms of supporting coaches to explore who they are being and how they are showing up when they're working with their clients. So having that awareness, and there is always a gap, and there is always a learning opportunity, no matter how much experience we have. I am a master coach. I have been a master coach with International Coach Federation for many years, and I'm still learning. I still have blind spots. So what do we do to continue learning? We create that space and that awareness that there is always opportunity to continue growth and learning and development. Leslie, what do you enjoy most about what you're currently doing? Okay, great. So Leslie, this question will help us to understand where the person is, what they are enjoying, and also that help us to understand sometimes value, what is important to people. Who do you like the most of what you're doing, or what is important to you? Also are questions that help us to understand what are other people's preferences, values, and many times knowing that we can align new activities and tasks to that. So if you are a leader and you get to know your people and what is important to them and what they like to do, you will be looking for opportunities to match that what really inspire them or motivate them or is important to them with other activities. And as coaches, we want to do the same. We want to understand our clients, what is important to them, what are their values, to also check to what extent their behaviors and their decisions are aligned or not to that. Because many times people say things, but then when they have to make decisions, they are not aligned. So what is that level of alignment? Lindsay, who is talking now? That's a great question. No, is you or is maybe one of your parents talking for you? So many times we don't realize that we have in our side the voices from our parental figures, can be parents, grandparents, whoever was in our life growing up, that we interiorize their voices. And sometimes we listen to their voices, and it's like we are speaking, but they are the ones who are speaking through us. So being aware of what we are saying and to what extent these beliefs belong to us, or maybe they belong to somebody else. And we may have adopted them consciously, but sometimes maybe we have adopted them unconsciously. We're not even aware that we are talking like somebody else or sharing ideas that maybe are somebody else that we heard growing up. Okay, before we continue, we have a great question here. Any reactions so far to what I am saying and to other people's questions? What reactions? What's coming up? Who would like to share? And then we will continue with the questions, because all of these questions are about the topic of today, that's creating awareness. But I am curious, what are your reactions to what I am saying? No? What's coming up for you?
I think
Gigi?
I think these questions are really going into the who, right? It's not about the what, which is the task, but asking questions to make people think, which is coming to who they are.
So for people here who are not professional coaches, I don't know, Leslie, do you have any coaching training?
Have I had any?
Yeah.
Just you.
Okay. Okay. That was good. It was 2 hours, but they were powerful. Okay. Anybody here who is not a coach? No? Anybody here who is not a professional coach? Okay. So in the book that I was sharing for people who came a little bit late, I shared that I just published a book called Lead with a Coaching Mindset, where I present the coaching competency for leaders so they can apply this to work. In the chapter 8, Leslie, there is a session on creating awareness, the topic of today. And one of the sections is the distinction between the who and the what. This is what Gigi is bringing. And the idea is that coaches ask clients questions about the who and the what. The who are questions about the being, how they're showing up, who they are being. And the what are questions about the issues that they are bringing. So, for example, sometimes they may bring issues around time management or delegation. So, if you're focusing on the topic or the issue that they are bringing that they want to be more effective at, are questions about the what. But when we're questioning, what Gigi is saying is that these questions we're exploring are questions about the who. It's about you as a person. How are you showing up? How are you being? How are you doing what you are doing? And requiring a higher level of depth. These are not questions that we think all the time. But these are the questions that really help us to go farther away, because are the questions that bring awareness. Now, what is interesting is sometimes you ask somebody, how are you showing up or who you are being? And people say, I don't know. So what do you do when people say, I don't know? Walid, do you want to share with us? What do you do when people tell you, I don't know?
Yeah, so I have like multiple roles. So my full-time job is an IT program manager at Kaiser, so where I do like leadership and so on for software development. I have my own business as a coach. I'm also an instructor at UCL Extension for project management, Microsoft user Microsoft project. So these are part-time jobs. So.
And when you're working with somebody and they tell you, and that can be in any of these roles, as a professor, as a leader, or as a coach, somebody tell you, I don't know. What do you do? What is your reaction most of the time?
I don't know about what, sorry.
About whatever question you ask them. You ask a question and they tell you the answer, I don't know. To the answer, I don't know.
Yeah, like get some clarification on what exactly they don't know, right? So I try to ask questions like to just before make any calls or any judgment, what exactly is not clear? Is it something that what can I do to help you better understand? These kind of questions help both of us align on next steps.
Yeah. So this clarification, by clarifying, it helps you to understand. Lindsay, what do you do when your clients tell you, "Oh, I don't know"?
Me? Oh, so I mean, it's so ridiculous. It's like preposterous, but I say, if you did know, what would you say? I mean, it's one of those coaching heuristics that is in a way ridiculous, but sometimes it elicits something like just throw something out there. Particularly somebody who's quite perfectionistic and wants to get it just right. Or what might someone else say about it?
Miriam, what do you do?
Sometimes I say to them, I talk about myself so much. Let's start with you. And then that turns around so I get information from them about themselves, and then I can tailor my response.
Great to see you here. I was talking to you before. I don't think you were hearing me. I was saying that we know each other since you moved to Los Angeles. How many years ago was that? How long have you been in Los Angeles now?
I'm no longer in Los Angeles. I'm in
you're gone already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived in Los Angeles for 13 years. So
And where are you now?
I'm in Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, great. Okay, great to have you here. And Miriam is in MCC too, so it's great that you share with us your wisdom and your experiences, because it's a conversation. So many times when people are saying, "I don't know," they may not know in that second. It's not in their awareness. So the idea that I want to invite everybody to consider is that when anybody tells you, "I don't know," it may be true that they don't know in that moment. But if we give them space, they may know. So one strategy sometimes is silence, being quiet, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable, with a couple of minutes waiting for people to see something comes up for them. Because when somebody is telling you, "I don't know," it's true, they don't know at that moment. But if they think, something may come up. So this is an invitation for you to consider in the future. When you ask a question and somebody tells you, "I don't know," just be quiet. Because silence is also one of the ways of creating awareness. So most of the time we think, as Gigi, you said at the beginning, that we create awareness by asking questions and making people think. And sometimes making people look at places they are not looking. This is what makes a difference. It's supporting people to see what they are not seeing, what we can call blind spots, something they are not paying attention, or looking at a different perspective. And visually, I like to use metaphors. So sometimes I ask my clients, one of the questions that I like to ask is, if it would be a drone looking at you at this situation, from a drone, what would you see? So the mechanism is a psychological mechanism called dissociation. Dissociation, that means separation. So when we separate from the situation, we can see things we were not seeing before. So when we have a challenge, when I have a challenge, I do that. I look at myself, okay, let me think, let me look at this from a different angle. So if I see it from a drone, if I look at it at the distance and I look what's going on, what I may not be seeing yet. So this is one of the questions that I like to ask if I would have to write down. If you put yourself, or another metaphor, some people like it, if there is a fly on the wall, what the fly may be seeing about the situation. It's another example. You separate, you dissociate. Sometimes you hear about that as a helicopter view. Like you're in a helicopter and you're seeing what are you seeing. Sometimes you also call it from a gallery view. It's like you're seeing a show. You go to the movie theater and you're seeing a movie, and in the movie is your life, and you're looking at your movie, and what do you see as somebody going to the movie theater? These are all great metaphors to look at situations from a different angle that can help us to create awareness and see things we were not seeing before. So this is when we're talking about insight or awareness, what we're talking here is about looking at things from a different perspective. And these new perspectives give us the possibility to do things were not possible before. Going, Lindsay, back to your question, what is possible now that was not possible before? Now, any other reactions? Any other comments? Kevin, you're quiet. What is in your mind about what we are? Anything is in your mind about what we are discussing?
No, I'm just kind of soaking it in, but I like the looking at it from different angles and being I've used different altitudes, like the helicopter that you were suggesting, looking at it from different altitudes. So in the fly on the wall. So all of these are great questions.
Good, good. I'm glad that you find them helpful. Walid?
Yeah, I like also your metaphor about like bird view or helicopter or fly on the wall. And I believe that will be useful in certain scenarios. However, sometimes you need to get closer to things to see things that you cannot see from distance. So I would say it depends on the situation. Sometimes you get stuck. Exactly. Exactly. So sometimes you are very stuck on the details. So then you need to get to the bird view, and sometimes you don't have enough details. Then you need to get to the other closer look. So that's my observation on that count. Thank you.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And also, the other person needs to be ready and willing to go there. Because many times, the person is scared and is worried about something, maybe doing that exercise may not be helpful. So it should be also a context. The person needs to be willing, ready to do it. Not all the time people are ready, willing to go to other places. So sometimes we just need to listen. Sometimes the awareness is developed by listening. And I used to be before being a coach, I was a therapist. And I would have some clients and they would come to me and they would share whatever what they were going on in their lives. And then I was quiet. All this, I didn't speak much. And then at the end of the session, I say, Dr. Goldvarg, you're amazing. Thank you very much. You're great, great, great. I say, oh, I didn't do much, but yes, I did a lot. By being quiet and listening, I did a lot. Why? Many times people don't have anybody in their life to listen to them. So listening and holding the space for people to think and being quiet can be of great value. And we may say also that talking is healing. Have you heard that before? Talking is healing. What does it mean? Is that when you talk and you express your ideas, in the speaking, in articulating your ideas, you start having more clarity. And you start seeing things you were not seeing before just by articulating in language, expressing what is in your mind. Hey, Paola, welcome. Great seeing you. You were there before, but great to see you with the camera now.
I was driving. I was stuck in
Okay.
traffic, so
Great to have you here. So
Thank
we were talking about different ways to create awareness and support others to create awareness. So we're talking about questions, and we discussed some questions. We still have some more to go over. They were talking about silence as an opportunity to help people to think about the answers. And then we were talking about listening as holding the space so people can develop some awareness just by talking. Now, there are two different kind of monologues. There is the monologue from the client that by talking, having clarity and realizing things and learning. And then there is the monologue that is just about details. That is sometimes people who say a lot, so they avoid saying what is really important. Can you hear the difference? One is the thinking aloud that helps clarifying and getting insight and learning by talking. And the other is the talking that is about a lot of details and about the information, but it's very superficial and is really, really avoiding going to the real issue as a mechanism to protect us in some way.
So what would be the question for the person that talks a lot of details, but it's really just surface and not really going deep? Like, how do you pause them to create that awareness?
It will depend on the trust that we have with the client. If we do not have trust, sometimes you may ask for permission. You may ask, can I challenge you? Is it okay if I challenge you? Is it okay if I interrupt you? So in some way you ask for permission. If the trust is not there, if there is trust, you may not need to do that. But if in a relationship, particularly if you're not doing that, and somebody going on and on, you may say, okay, sorry for interrupting you. Would you mind if I interrupt you? I have a question for you. And there are different questions that you may ask. One question, if I have a trusting relationship with a client, I may ask, we're talking about this, but I am wondering if the issue is something else. Is there a possibility that we are not talking here about what we really need to talk? That's one possibility. Other possibility is to say, okay, how all of this relates to the agreement of the session today? How all of this relates to what you want to accomplish in the session today? And then we tell you, oh, so you can understand all of the details. So you may say, well, I may not need to understand all of the details. What we need to understand is what is your challenge with all of this. So sometimes we go to the heart of the issues by asking people, okay, in this situation, what is challenging for you? What is your challenge about this? So that question helps you to go to the heart of the issue. So somebody comes to you and says, okay, I have problem managing my time. Okay, what is your challenge about managing your time? Because everybody here may have a different challenge about managing their time. We may all call the same thing different things. So for you in particular, what is your particular challenge in delegating, in managing your time, in being assertive, in whatever people want to work on? So this question goes to the heart of the issue. That's another of my favorite questions. Is asking what is challenging for you about this particular issue that you're bringing today to discussion. That helps us to go to the heart. Now, sometimes we also need to realize that people are doing that because when I was a less experienced coach, I would work with leaders and they would talk and share a lot of details. And I was wondering why they're sharing so much. And I may think, oh, I know I don't have to interrupt. But by not interrupting, I was not being a good coach because the client needed to be interrupted, needed somebody to tell them, okay, what is the real issue here? Because sometimes talking and giving a lot of details is a way of avoiding what the real issue is. And you can see that in life with people in conversations all the time.
Well, I wonder sometimes if somebody gives too much details. Well, I like what you're saying about there could be something else, right, than the details. But would it be also possible if they're giving too much details that they want you to say, see, that's why it's a challenge for me because I have so many things.
Okay, so they're telling you that to validate some point they want to make. And you may say, okay, I hear you. It sounds like you have a lot on your plate. And so what? We all have a lot in our plate. Now, for you, what is the challenge for you about this? What's happening to you? Going from the what to the who. The who question is what's happening to you? What is your challenge? What are your emotions? What are your reactions to everything you're sharing? I'm curious. Or you may ask for permission and you may say, would you mind if I challenge you? Can we open, sometimes I use the metaphor, can we open the onion? Can we go to real issue here? I remember one of my clients said, can we open the onion here? And my client told me, are you going to make me cry? I said, okay, not the metaphor from that space, but going deeper. Are you willing to go deeper to see what's underlying? Anybody have any other reactions that want to comment on based on what we are discussing here? Lindsay, anything that you want to share?
Not for the moment. Thanks.
Okay. So let's see other of the questions. So Paola, people were writing in the chat box some questions that people like to ask. If you want to do that too, you're welcome. What questions people here like to ask? Walid asked, what keep you awake at night? That's a great question. What keep you awake at night when you go to sleep? That's a good good question to ask because many times people who have issues about sleeping is because they're thinking they cannot stop. thinking? That's a great question. These are the fears and the anxieties, and sometimes people are aware of them, sometimes they are not. So this is a good question. We need to help people to be more aware of what are their concerns, what is in their background. Lindsay, curious, what part in all that feels most important to share? Okay, this is another way to go from what we were talking before, from everything you are sharing. Okay, what do you think is the most important?
Yeah,
Now,
just
something
bottom
else,
lining.
bottom lining. Another way of bottom lining I used like to use is, like the example of a friend of yours coming to you and tell you a movie and give you all of the details, and you're getting tired of listening to all of the details of the movie. And you may ask how the movie ended. So you jump to all of the details to the end of the movie. So that's another good question. How this situation ended. So by doing that, you go to the end of the story. Kevin, can you give me the main factors of what happened in this situation? Great. So this is about understanding what are the key elements to pay attention. And then a question that I like to ask Kevin is what else? And what else? Why? Because this is what they already know. And when you start asking what else, they may bring to the awareness things that were not there before. And there is
Yeah.
where there can be some new awareness and new learning.
Usually when you find out the main factors, you're going to find out that one factor that is really driving them where they're having a problem with the situation or with the person, and that'll come out in that when you're asking for those main factors, and then you go down that avenue with them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can go and when you do that, you keep going deeper to see what else may be there that is in their way.
Mhm.
And what is interesting, in most of the time, when you ask about what are the factors in the situation, most of the time people don't see themselves as responsible for them. They
Yeah.
say, yes, my boss, my colleague, my partner. So then I may ask, okay, what is your part on this that you are not aware, you're not paying attention to again? What haven't we looked at yet that could make a difference? That's a great question, Gigi. What else? Is it similar to what else we can look that we have not talked yet? But I also like to ask this question: is anything that we should be talking that we're not talking about now? We talk about this, but it's something else that we should. There is either. I'm wondering. It seems to me that maybe the conversation that we need to have is something else. What do you think? And it's a question. And do you know what? When you have questions, you're never wrong because you have questions. When you share affirmations and you say, this is it, then you may be right or you may be wrong. But if you're always bringing hypotheses to your work, particularly as coaches, just is that possible that this is what's happening versus saying this is what's happening? You're never wrong. You're never wrong. You're never right either. Okay? So what? You're never wrong. Lindsay, if you did know, what would you say? Great. This is going back to the question. If you don't know, what might someone else say about it? Okay, that's another great question. We have somebody else. Janet, she needs to lead to that. Lindsay, what has remained unspoken that says more than what we have said? Okay, great questions. Okay, so the invitation is to look at how we can incorporate these questions to our lives. So if I ask you, how you can incorporate this to your job as coaches, as leaders, as managers, as mothers, fathers, parents, siblings, teachers, whatever role you have in your life. What's come up for you? Paola, since you came a little bit late, we haven't heard from you, but you were listening, so you know
Yes,
we have been talking about. What's coming up for you?
I like the questions that we have in regards to when they're trying to find clarity. Because as we've all talked about the fact that sometimes there's a lot of noise, so we're just trying to bring clarity. And also what I think about is that initial conversation perhaps as to what they wanted to focus on at the beginning of the session, to make sure we're tying that in to ensure that what they wanted to talk about is truly what they wanted to talk about. So I think all these questions that are coming up is just helping to bring clarity for you as a coach, as well as giving that opportunity for your client to really what's top to mind, so.
Yeah. And interesting, many times in coaching, somebody comes to you with an issue, and when you start exploring, you realize that it's something else.
Yeah.
Most of the time. So the question is how curious we are to uncover what's really going on. Personally, I think this is the most interesting part of our job as leaders, as coaches, is helping people to look at places they are not paying attention to. And when we start looking at places we are not paying attention, sometimes we call them blind spots, we may bring our effectiveness, but this possibility that Lindsay was talking about at the beginning of the session, to the next level. How we can bring new possibilities to our lives. And I think that we can do that as coaches, as leaders, is supporting others to see what they are not seeing, so new possibilities of action may be present for them. I think this is what makes our job so interesting. But it is not as easy as telling people what to do. Okay, like as a consultant, sometimes as a manager, you have to do that, telling people what to do. That's part of your job. And sometimes there is a place for that, but that is easier. What is more difficult is making people think, making people to come up with their own solutions, supporting them so they can look at places they are not paying attention. So they look at blind spot, they develop new awareness, and with that, new possibilities of action and for their lives are possible. Okay, so we're getting close to the end of this session. Now, this is a 1 hour, got really fast, our lunchtime in this cafe. So let's go around. Let's hear from everybody. Last thoughts. What is in your mind? What have you learned from this conversation? What are you thinking? And we're going to wrap up with that. Let's go around and let's hear from everybody. And by the way, if you are interested in this conversation, I recommend, if you have not got the book yet, you can go it through Amazon. Lead with a Coaching Mindset. If you're a coach, it will help you to work with your client. You can recommend this to your client so you can discuss some of the chapters together. And also, there is a podcast that I started a few months ago. We are getting close to the 10 podcasts, and each podcast is one chapter of the book. So I interview leaders, and each leader talk about their experiences around these competencies. So I highly recommend that you listen. You just can go to YouTube, or you go to any places where you can find a podcast and put Lead with a Coaching Mindset. That is the name of the book. And maybe you can listen to that when you are on driving, or, like sometimes people listen walking or exercising, and that is consistent with our conversation today. So let's go around and let's hear from everybody something that you take away from the session today. What would you say are some of your takeaways from today's session?
For me, I'm often taking away the same nugget, which is just to allow more silence. To your last point, it feels a lot easier talking, showing that I'm listening as opposed to just silence. So, yeah.
And this is one of the key skills for master coaches. When I train master coaches, I train them to embrace silence more. So when you listen a session from a master coach, you will hear a lot of silence because they are spacious. There is a spaciousness in the conversation, in the space of work. But you don't need to wait to be a master coach to do that. Okay, everybody, you can start doing it today. You can start being a master coach today, doing that in your sessions and see what happens. Kevin, any takeaways from you?
Well, just listening to everybody with their questions puts me at ease a little bit with, wow, they're asking a lot of the same questions. So that means I'm kind of rowing the canoe the same way as other coaches are.
Great to hear. So this is why we want to learn from others and sometimes validating what we are doing, and reinforcing, as Lindsay said before.
Exactly.
That's great. Wally, for you?
Yeah, I think I added few more questions on my toolbox to bring awareness. So thanks everyone for sharing your wisdom and insight. And I would like also to add that maybe we went through like questions throughout the session, but maybe just reiterating the fact what we have been hearing from the session, because sometimes, as it was mentioned, like people or clients go in the wrong directions, they keep talking. So bringing people back into the topic, summarizing the problem or sharing observation, I think that also could be an added value. So it doesn't have to be a question. That will be embracing coaching mindset, showing the client that we're listening, and sometimes the client might not be able to express what they want to do, but helping them reframing or paraphrase might be helpful as well. Thank you.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Summarizing can be a way to bring people back to center and to the conversation. Something else, Wally, that I like to ask is asking the client to complete a sentence. So I may interrupt and I say, okay, wait a minute. Would you mind? Would you like to complete a sentence? And the sentence can be in this current situation that I am going through. My fear is. So instead of asking a question, you ask somebody to complete a sentence as another way to think and to. So not all questions, no, it's not all about questions. Can be different techniques. Can be summarizing what you're saying. Can be asking to complete a sentence.
Yeah, and if you have a minute at the end, Damian, I have a couple questions for something that I would like to launch at work, since you have the experience with coaching and education as well. So I would like to have a couple of minutes if you have time.
Yeah, definitely. Leslie, how was the session for you today?
No, this has been really helpful. I've got a lot of notes. But I think the part about the chapter 8, which I'll definitely read, is the who versus what, how they're showing up and what are the issues that they're bringing. So
Great. Well, you may share some of your notes with other people at Options for Learning. I know
for sure, yes.
Some people sign up and they were not able to come, but I see, Paola, there were like 5 people who signed up. So
Oh, good. They had the motivation. So.
yeah, at least they had the first step. At least they may watch. Is it okay for me to share the recording? Is it okay with everybody? So we can share the recording with people who sign up, because we had 20 people who signed up and for some reason they didn't come. So we can share that with them and encourage them to come back next month. Remember, it's every month, always the third Wednesday at 12 p.m. Gigi, what are your takeaways?
There are so many techniques and ways to create that self-awareness, like Lindsay kind of mentioned about silence, the questions, what Walid said about making observations, summarizing. There's just so many ways. I think sometimes we just have to remember, and that's what I keep doing, is like, don't interrupt them and ask questions to make them think deeper. And sometimes that's a challenge in itself, right? Or if I don't know what to ask, I just stay quiet.
Yeah, that's a good summary. Paola, something that you want to share?
Yes, and I think, Leslie, you brought it up as far as the who and the what. I think as leaders and organizations, whether nonprofit for profit, we just, really lean on to the what happened, but the who, or, the being part, that is not something, that is really brought up. And at times I believe there's an uncomfortable space there that leaders don't want to go there sometimes because they don't know what to do with that. But I think that's why they have to read your book, Damian, to really understand that that's how you unlock the potential and really what their belief system is, what are their obstacles, so that they can really become their best selves. So, yeah.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for coming. And I do have a newsletter. If anybody's interested, I am going to put it in the chat box. I wonder, I think this is the link to get my newsletter. In the newsletter, I share the invitation to this session, and to all of the free activities that I do per month. We have demonstrations of coaching for people who are coaches who want to see other master coaches working. I open my coaching training for people to come and see master coaches coaching. I think that can be helpful. Also for the supervision program, I do the same. So if you want to learn about these activities, they are for free. My newsletter is a good way to receive the information every month. And also you will get information for this session today. So thanks everybody for coming. I hope that you can use some of the conversation we had, and I look forward to seeing you next month. And when we're going to stop recording here.